right, so the last part of this section gets into circles. So circles are a whole other realm of geometry. So we have circumference and we have area. Now circumference is a fancy way of saying perimeter for a circle. So don't let that word throw you off. It's still just talking about how long is it all the way around the outside of the circle. So now we got two different versions of a formula that we could use. Now the main one, we got C equals pi d, and we all remember that pi is equal to approximately 3.14. Now it's a lot longer than that, 3.14159,653, and it keeps going and going and going. But we're going to use 3.14 just to make it easier. So we could, if we know the diameter of the circle, we can just multiply it by pi, and that will give us the circumference. Now, alternatively, if we also know that the diameter is equal to twice the radius, then we can have a different variation. So we got C equals 2 pi r. So you got a circle. If you have the diameter, great. Not drawn very well, but you get the idea. Or if we have a circle and we have the radius. So either one of those situations we can find the circumference. Now for area they only use one version, pi r squared. So they only want you to use the radius. But we can do a little bit of finagling if we have the diameter to get the area as well. So let's see how that would work. So if we have a circle with a diameter of 10, again, no units, so we don't have to worry about units on our answers, find the circumference in the area. So for the first one, since we're given d, we can use the first variation. So we got pi d, so that means 3.14 times 10, which is 31.4. Now for area, pi r squared, so we got our 3.14, and if we know the diameter is 10, automatically we should be able to infer that the radius is 5. So we want 5 squared. So now order of operations dominates here. So we want to make sure we take care of the exponent first before we multiply. So 3.14 times 25. And if we cheat here real quick, we got 3.14 times 25, 78.5. So 78.5 would be the area. Again, if we had units, make sure you square the units for area, but don't worry about squaring them for circumference because it's like perimeter. Now, a little bit more applied problem. Given a circle with C equal to 37.68 and R is equal to x plus 1, find x. Zzz. Well, let's draw a picture. So we got C is equal to that, and R is equal to x plus 1. Well, we're talking about circumference, so we know we should be using one of these two formulas up here, and they're talking about R, so really that boils it down to using C equals 2 pi r. So if we start with the formula, we can then start to replace stuff. So we know that C is 37.68, so we can replace that in our problem. And so we replace the pi with 3.14. Now the r, we want to be careful because it's an expression, we should wrap it in parentheses. So x plus 1. So now this is a lot nicer because the only thing that we don't know is x. So we just got to be careful when we simplify it down. So 37.68, let's multiply that real quick. So 6.28. And so now we got our parentheses here. So remember, we got to distribute. In this case, we have a plus. So we do want to distribute that 6.28 in. So if we distribute it, we're going to get 6.28x plus 6.28. And now we can start to get x by itself. So we're going to want to subtract this one off. So that's going to give you 31.4 equals 6.28x. And then if we divide by 6.28, we will get 5. So 5 should be the value of x. All right, so let's try a couple more. Make sure I get my page lined up nicely. So we have a shading problem again. So remember, if we have shading, we have to look at the overall picture, the overall shape, and then the inner shape. So the overall outside shape in this one is a square. So we need to try to find the area of that. So now based on the drawing, they're giving us this radius is 4 miles. Now how does that help us find the area of the square? Well, the trick with this one is to reorient the radius. Instead of having it at an angle like that, what if you made it straight across? If you made it straight across, it should still be 4 miles. And if I made it straight across the other way, oops, if I can write it, that would also be 4 miles. So that means that the whole length of the bottom is 8 miles. And we could have done the same thing vertically, so we know vertically it's also 8 miles. So now we can find the area of the square. So 64 miles squared should be the area of the square. And so now, if we tackle the circle. So the circle, well, we just learned the formula. So pi r squared, so 3.14 times the radius, in this case is 4. So that's going to be 3.14 times 16, which, if I recall correctly, should be 50.24. I think I need some more lead. Just give me 1 second. There we go. So now we got our circle, we got our square, and so now we need to tackle the shaded part. So the shaded is only one corner though. If we had all 4 corners, we could just simply subtract those. But since we only have one of those, what do we got to do? Well, you guessed it, we do have to divide it by 4. So the area of the shaded is going to actually be 1/4 of the difference. So if we substitute all of our numbers in, let's see what we get. So if we do 64 minus 50.24, that gives us 13.76. And now if we divide that by 4, 3.44. And don't forget your units. Okay, we're running about 9 minutes here, so this one's going to be a longer video. So these last two, so again, we have a shaded problem, same as the previous. We need the outside and we need the unshaded inside. So we got 2 triangles and they're exactly the same. So all we got to do is find one of them and double it. But we got to first start with the overall. The overall is going to be a rectangle. So we need the length and the width. Well, we can kind of see if we add those together, that should give us the whole length. 96 centimeters. And our length and width. So let's see what that comes out to be. 96 times 74, 7104. And don't forget your units. So there's our rectangle, so now we need a triangle. So that's half base times height. And this one's nice. It gives us the base and the height. So we got 48 times our 36. So half of what? What's 48 times 36? 1728. So if we take half of that, divided by 2 is 864. Okay, so we got our rectangle, we got our triangle, so now we got to just put it all together. So remember the shaded should be your outside shape minus your unshaded inside shape or shapes. So remember we got two triangles. So we got two triangles. So we got 7104 minus twice our 864. Oops. So remember we doubled it, we took half of it up here, so if we double it back, we're back to 1728. So now we just got to subtract. 7104 minus 1728 equals 5376. So 5376, and is that it? No, don't forget your units. So centimeters squared. Okay, one more, and we're out of here. So hotels in the shape of a cylinder with a circular foundation. The circumference of the foundation is 6 times the radius, increased by 12.8 feet. Find the radius of the circular foundation. Use 3.14 as approximation for pi. Okay, so let's draw a picture. So we got a circular foundation. And we're going to need a radius. We don't know what that is because that's what we want to find. So let's just call it R. And then they're telling us this bit of information about the circumference. The circumference of the foundation is 6 times the radius. So remember, circumference, we can use C. So a C equals 6 times the radius, so 6R increased by 12.88. So if we add 12.88, that should be a summary of what they just said. Okay, that's nice. But now what? What else do we know about circles? And circumference. So think back to the previous page. We also know that C equals 2 pi r. So we got C is equal to this, and we got C is equal to that. So this and that must be equal to each other. So we can put both of these together. And that will give us this equation. So now, the only thing we don't know is what R is. We know pi is 3.14. So if we start to break this down, so now the pi is out of there. So now we're just going to get our r's all on one side. So if we subtract 6r, so we'll just be careful subtracting here. So 6.28 minus 6 gives us 0.28 r equals 12.88. And now if we divide, we get a nice 46 for an answer. So what about the units? So they were talking about feet up here. So feet squared, be careful. It's not going to be feet squared because we're not talking about area. We just want a single dimension. So this is just going to be 46 feet. So that should do it for us. Any questions? Probably not yet. Stay tuned for the next video.